Let's be honest, editing photos can feel like opening a can of worms, especially when you are trying to build a good habit and not just click around aimlessly. I remember when I started editing photography, I always wonder how I can create a good habit and how I can create a workflow. We all have been there, right? Capture One is a great editing software. This is my go-to editing software nowadays when it comes to editing my raw images. And it has a big feature up its sleeve. Its layers. If there is one thing that can really level up your editing game, I believe it's understanding layers and masks. Trust me, when you get the hang of it, you will wonder how you ever edit without them. Hi everyone, I'm Hamed Bang. I'm a nature and landscape photographer based in Sweden. On this channel, I share my journey and tips about landscape photography, editing, and all the fun stuff. Today we are diving into one of the most powerful features in Capture One: layers and masks. And let's stick around till the end because I've got a really cool bonus tip that makes your editing even more flexible. This is going to be a bit of longer video because I have packed it with tons of information, but it's broken down into sections so you can easily jump back if you want to rewatch or skip to specific parts. So let's clear this up first. If you have used Photoshop before, you know layers are basically the backbone of editing there. You stack them, blend them, and create pretty much everything you want. Lightroom, on the other hand, is a bit different. It's more about global edits with some local adjustment tools, but not true layers. Capture One sits beautifully in between these two. You can get proper adjustment layers like Photoshop, but in a much simpler photography-friendly way. A bit difference though is that in Photoshop, you are working with the actual pixels in each layer. You can blur them, sharpen them, blend the layers together, or even blend different images together. And actually, the more layers you use, the bigger the file size become. That's because all of those pixels you are adding to your photo. Capture One, however, uses a non-destructive workflow. Each layer contains only adjustments and parameters, not actual pixel data. I will show you some examples in just a second. In Capture One, we have two different types of layers: adjustment layers and clone and heal layers. Adjustment layers are where you will do most of your creative work, like exposure, tweaks, color grading, sharpening, all that good stuff. Clone and heal layers are great for retouching, like removing dust spots or distractions. In adjustment layers, you can add masks if you want. Hang tight because I will explain masks in a second and everything will click. We cannot talk about layers in Capture One without talking about masks. When you create a new adjustment layer, you have two choices. You can create an empty layer, which affects nothing initially, or create a filled layer, which has a mask that covers the entire image. But why would you want an empty layer with no effect at all? Well, that's because then you can add a mask and target your adjustment to just a section of the image. For those who came from Lightroom, you should know that you need always to create a layer first before apply a mask here in Capture One. There are three ways to create a new layer. First one is to click on the little arrow next to the plus here and choose the kind of layer you want to create. The second way is to use a shortcut. For me, it's Shift plus E for an empty layer and Shift plus F for a filled layer. You can assign your own shortcuts. If you want to know how, let me know in the comments and I will make a video about it. The third way to create a new layer is when you don't have a layer and you select the masking tool. The Capture One will automatically create an empty layer for you and add that mask to that layer. But if you already have one or more layers, you cannot create a new layer by creating a new mask. First add an empty layer and then apply a mask to it. This also applies to clone and heal layers. If there is no heal or clone layer, first time you use one of those tools on your image, Capture One will automatically create a layer for you. The only exception is that the spot removal tools, which don't sit in any layers. To remove a layer, just select it and click on the minus button. Each layer has an opacity adjustment, which is super handy. If you feel that your adjustments are too strong, you can just dial it back by the opacity slider to tone things down a little bit. A good habit is to rename your layers. I do it all the time. It makes a huge difference when you come back later to tweak things. You will know exactly which layer you want to adjust. Especially when you stack many layers, you will get lost if they just have generic names. Before we jump into masks, there is one last super important thing about layers in Capture One that you should know. You have access to almost all tools inside each adjustment layer. It's almost like the whole software lives inside your layers. You can even apply styles, aka presets, to a layer and control its impact with opacity and masks. That means you can stack styles and mix them together to create new looks. Pretty handy, right? So when you create a layer, whenever you see this little brush icon next to a tool, it means this tool can be part of a layer. There are only a few exceptions, like vignette, which makes sense because it applies to whole image like a border. So you don't need any mask for that. Unless you want to make a custom vignette, then you can create an empty layer and use some masking techniques to create your own vignette and dial in your adjustments. One very handy tip here: create separate field layers for impactful adjustments. For example, I usually put my curves and levels on their own layers and name them properly so I can easily fine tune them later, because with curves and levels, with a little bit of adjustment, it has a big impact on the photo, and sometimes it can be too much. Later on, when you edit your photo, you want to dial back some of those adjustments, and the easiest way is to have them in a separate layer and just change the opacity of that layer. Same goes for color grading and color corrections as well. I usually put them in separate layers and name them like color grading or color correction. If you want to learn more about how color works in Capture One, check out this video where I shared some cool color grading tricks. Okay, now let's talk about masks. Masks are how you tell Capture One exactly where you want your adjustments applied. There are several ways to create masks. One is brush tool. You paint the mask wherever you want. You can adjust the size, hardness, flow, and opacity of your brush strokes. Just right click anywhere on the image and the brush properties panel will pop up. The second tool to create mask is linear gradient, perfect for the skies in landscape, for instance. Hold Alt while you drag in the lines to adjust the gradient. And if you click on the middle line, you can rotate it. The third masking tool is radial gradient, great for spotlighting areas like your subject. Drag the outer or inner circles or control points to resize or reshape it. Magic brush, super smart. With a little brush stroke, it quickly targets the same colors and tones in your image. That's great for the skies, water, etc. And you can of course right click for the properties panel. I usually start with a small brush size to select a few pixels and adjust the tolerance to fine tune the power of this tool. AI select. Actually, a while ago I made a video about the AI mask tool or AI select in Capture One. You can check it out here if you are interested to learn more about this tool. It's this brush tool with an AI next to it. It's actually an object select tool. The first time you use it on an image, it will quickly analyze your photo to identify objects. After that, you can just click around and select object instantly. To see the mask, hit the M on your keyboard or toggle this icon above the viewport. To add more objects to your selection, you just click on them, or you can drag a selection box around your subject and this will find an object and add that to your selection. You also get these three eraser tools, each corresponding to a brush tool we already discussed. A quick tip here is that while you're using any of these brush tools or erasers, if you hold down Alt, it temporarily switches between the brush and eraser. There are also these three handy AI-powered mask buttons: subject, background, and people. Subject finds the main subject in your photo. It's good for portraits and product photography, but can be hit or miss for landscape photos. Background selects the background, so everything that's not the subject. Basically, it's more like an inverted mask of the subject. People open a drop down where you can select different parts of the face or body. You can even choose separate masks to create individual layers for each selection. If you want to select the entire body, you use the subject tool. If you want to adjust the skin tones, you can use people and just use the skin selection in that tool. And it's very good to know that these three masking tools are smart and can be copied to a new image. They will adapt to the new image automatically. Very handy if you want to bulk edit similar images. You can edit one image and then copy or edit across all the other images. And these masks will be regenerated based on the content of the new image. This cannot be said about the other type of masks. Every time you copy or edit across different variants or different images, you have to readjust or sometimes recreate those masks. And one more thing about these AI masks is they will create a new layer automatically when you use them. This is the fourth way of creating layers in Capture One. The fifth way actually is when you use a style brush. We are not talking about those in this video. Whatever you choose to create your mask, you always can refine and adjust your mask. We have two main tools for that. There are other ways to adjust your mask as well. One of them is to select the mask you want. If you click on the refine mask, you can adjust the radius of the pixels you want to adjust. It's great if you select the sky and you see some lines between the sky and the tree lines or the land. Then you can adjust the mask using this tool. You always can use the luma range as well to fine-tune your mask based on the luma and brightness of the pixels. If you want to adjust the shadows or midtones or highlights or whatever. By moving the range slider here, you can adjust that. Okay, let's do a real world example. I've got this beautiful landscape photo here. Did some small adjustments or basic adjustment to the image. Then I have a selection for the sky. If I hit M, you can see the mask for the sky, and I did some adjustments to that. Just added a little bit of contrast and saturation to the sky. Then created a layer and name it C. With the linear gradient, I create a mask for the water or the sea. Then I created a field adjustment layer to color grade this image, and I call it grade. And then we have a layer for the rock. And as you can see, it has a very nice selection. To select the rock, I use the AI selection mask to select the object and add the bottom part with selection, dragging a box around it. You can see that I can add more stuff to this mask just by clicking around and select them. And here is after of my edit. Alright, here is the bonus tip I promised. Did you know you can convert your global adjustments, all the edits on your background layer, into a new adjustment layer? That way you instantly get all the flexibility of layers without having to start from scratch. It's a total game changer for fine-tuning your edits later on. To do that, you simply click on your image layer or the main layer and select Move Image Layer Adjustment to a new layer. It will move it to the top of the stack. You can move the layers around by click and drag them. Now you can turn it on and off or adjust the opacity or even apply some mask to it or erase some part of the mask to erase it or remove it from some part of the image. And there you have it. Layers and masks in Capture One aren't just nice to have, they are essential for pro level editing. If you want to dive even deeper, check out my video on levels in Capture One. It pairs perfectly with what we discussed here today. And if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more editing tips, and let me know in the comments which type of mask are you most excited to try. Until next video, take care.